So the health care bill, and I carry this so that you get an idea of bureaucratic growth and the leakages, those are all the agencies that are created under the health care bill, about 122. You're here and your doctor's here. Well, so first of all, it's not going to make better health care, but you've got to fund all of these people, thousands of people, before you ever get one bit of dollars in better care. Just one little square, this little cube up here at the top is the IRS. That's 16,000 people and no doctors on the whole page. We didn't hire any doctors. Instead, we're hiring 16,000 IRS agents. And these are the leakages out of the system. Indian healthcare is the same way. Forest Service is the same way. We passed a bill back in, I wasn't there, but 2001 or 2, to cut trees because we were seeing it beginning to burn our forest down. We gave $200 million to cut trees, and the Forest Service didn't actually cut any trees. They just bought equipment that could cut trees someday. You see how they divert the thing around. Growth of the bureaucracy here. The Forest Service over in Lincoln. Forest Service in Lincoln Forest over in Ruidoso was one person back in the 70s. The last time I checked, 2 or 3 years ago, was 142. You don't just have a doubling. If you went to 2 people, that would double the bureaucracy nationwide. This is 142 to 1. And that's the exponential growth that we've had. And so somewhere we have to take on this question. Somewhere we have to deal with the people who can work but choose not to. Every one of us would take care of somebody that can't fend for themselves and can't do. But I, in this town today, have run into people saying we can't get help. 10% unemployment, and we can't find help. People don't want to work. That's because they can make as much off work as they can on work. Amen. At some point, we really need to begin to deal with that. At some point, we have to ask ourselves to work. You have to pass a drug screen, but you don't have to pass a drug screen to receive. So you all have to pass a drug screen to work, and then your taxes are taken away, and we give the people who don't have to. And that is a huge problem, so that one of my friends works in the emergency room, and she says the same person comes in every day, and she's got a new ailment every day in the emergency room, which is extraordinarily expensive. And she's always wanting medications, and those medications are the ones that things can be made of out here, that she can go and sell them or whatever. So she just stopped writing them the things. And she screams in the emergency room. She said, I'm not coming to you. I'm going to go to one of the other doctors. There's another friend of mine who is a restaurant owner, and he says, always, the people who are there working for him say, you got to sign this little paper that I only work 20 hours this week, and then I can go and get food stamps and stuff. We're cheating ourselves. The system is, those are not even included in the fraud. Those are the waste. And that's even bigger. So we can squeeze a lot out without cutting benefits. I think what we must do is prioritize, and we must honor the commitments that we've made first. Commitments to seniors. We need to honor Social Security. We need to honor the commitment to our veterans. We need to honor these things instead before we give out grants that have questionable value. And I think we need a nationwide discussion with every dollar that we spend somewhere on the internet, and we would do it one section at a time and let people start ranking them. We can do that. It's easy on the internet. Have people start saying, I would put this one first, this one last. Just take 20 or 30 things a day, maybe 20 or 30 things an hour. I don't care. People would come in and be involved. And we must begin to cut the things that are taking away value and providing non-value. That we've got to figure out. Our system is broken too. Which one is 2? Oops, were you 2?
Yeah, I was 2, I think.
Okay.
My name is Peter Burrows. I had the same question as Mr. Kramer. It's nice to cut taxes, but the real burden of government is government spending. They're going to borrow it, they're going to print it. Yes. And you've gone through a few things you've cut. If you were to say God for a couple of days, are there any departments, entire departments in Washington, D.C., like the Department of Energy or Department of Education, Housing, or urban development that you would eliminate?
The elimination is a question that is fraught with political difficulty, and we've got to start doing that. I tell you what I would do, is that what I would do is not necessarily cut the departments, I would make them competitive. And so over here, for education, I would, instead of sending the money here and letting them distribute to the states, and letting the states then distribute to the schools, I would block grant the money straight to the school by student, and then the school contracts with these agencies for the services that are beneficial. I would do the same thing in the Indian Health Service, and we're very close to that. We took on, you're asking about would I go and fight the fight again? Yes. We took on the Indian Health Service because they were providing very poor service to Acoma, Laguna, Canyoncito clinic up there, and every year they would cut services and then the budget would go, and so it's downward spiral. I said, I think that Acoma, Laguna, and Canyoncito should be able to contract out to a private corporation to come in. They can choose IHS or Presbyterian or somebody else, I don't care who. So we fought that 2 years, and we got it fairly close, and then it kind of fell back a little bit. I was just in Laguna yesterday, maybe the day before, kind of run together here. And Laguna says we're this close to approving that. So even after I left, they're that close to approving now where IHS has to earn its money. We block grant past IHS, and if they can earn the support of these people who are supposed to be the beneficiaries, then we use them. That way, the entire American people, the entire American public is in charge of what the bureaucracies are soaking up. In the education department, the average salary in Washington, and I saw this report a couple of years ago, just before I got out, $100,000 average. That's secretaries, janitors, everything. You don't find that kind of money coming out here. So when we appropriate more money, we hope we get better education, but instead we get higher salaries. Instead, we get this big flow chart of all these agencies, and every agency is full of people, and they duplicate their services. And so we're not doing anything except hiring people. Don't know that it's true, but I've heard reports that sometimes in a welfare office, that the, say, $1 million budget for a welfare office in this town or some other town, the actual budget is 90% for salary and $100,000 to give away. It's that is eating up the value of the country, paying for things that we don't get. Concentration on the bureaucracies is no longer about the service. The concentration is on about feeding the bureaucracy and making sure their pay goes up. That's what we have to deal with. That's this whole area. And so, yes, the answer is yes, but we got to selectively go through it. And there are many agencies, American people on the board saying that agency doesn't help us. It's not going to be hard. The American people say right now, 10% say that the government does something that's beneficial to them. 10%. These are dramatic numbers, and we must be alert and aware. I think everybody feels like it's time to hit the reset button and redesign and reinvent our government. It is non-functional. 3. Yes, ma'am.
Just to follow up with this question also in a way. There's a lot of us, we've got the crickets working in the service, back into the office, and it looks like the tides are with us. So January, when you guys are there, you tell me what the battle plan is, follow through on what we started. I mean, how do we stop this?
Yeah.
Could you repeat the question? We couldn't.
Yes, the question was basically what's the game plan in January if we succeed in winning this seat in enough to be in charge of at least the House. I don't think about the Senate, I'm not over there. So is that fair enough?
Yeah, let's start with just
So you can like it or dislike it, but the pledge that came out the other day gives you a fairly good blueprint. So the pledge is jobs, national security, repeal or defund the health care. Let's see, there were a couple other things here. Borders. What else?
border security.
Border security. And one other. Anyway, so that gives you a good idea. Now, I don't know if it was my input, but I began almost a year ago in July of last year when I started running, talking to leadership saying, look, we don't have time to play anymore. We must be serious about thinking. So if you break down the jobs angle, they talk about tax control and regulation control. And so we're beginning to get some symmetry. I was trying to email Mr. Cantor and Mr. Boehner early this morning saying, yes, you can't talk about just this. Yes, we need to do that, but right now that's their conversation. You must talk here because we can't cut enough to make things work. With 3.5% rate of growth, we know that things work. Every budget is broken. The gentleman just said it. It's broken in Washington. Our budget is finished here. California, they're going to pass marijuana in order to make the budget work. I mean, is that an idea or is that just vacant thinking? You can't cure California's budget with that. You need to cure California's budget with creating jobs. They've driven so many out through over-taxation, over-regulation, and over-promising of spending, over-promising of benefits that their budget will not work anymore. So you have to have this coordinated increase here. And that, to me, is what they're telling me. I'm talking to them saying, please, America is depending on it, and I'm depending on it. I'm going to fight. The gentleman says it. We're going to fight to make things come back into order. Can we fix it? Absolutely believe we can fix it because of you all. You're the most powerful thing working. All right, 1, 2, 3. 1. Let's go back over here. 2, 3. Yeah. Let's go straight across. Yes.
Tom Bosworth. Steve, I know you're a conservative, and to do what you're talking about, what we all want, I know you need help from us. But the way I see it, there are too many people in Washington who are willing to just sort of talk about this. We're going to need groups within Congress that are willing to go after this. And I, for one, would like to know where I can help, and I would be willing to do that if I can, but I need to see that you guys are going to go do this. You're going to coagulate together a group of conservatives. You're going to lead this thing. You've got to fight for it. We can't just go along. And that partly is what this gentleman was saying over here. I'd like to see commitment from that. I would also like to commit to help with that if we can.
Okay.
I just don't know how right now.
Yes, and all of us are struggling for that. I began about 3.5 years ago telling my Republican colleagues that we need to have, say, a Wikipedia of lawmaking. That is, that people can make suggestions nationwide on the significant issues.
Yes.
Social Security, we ought to have something where people can throw their ideas in, because in these settings, I always come up with tremendous inputs. But we don't have a way to tap into that, and I will tell you, 435 people cannot run this country. That's what we're trying to do now.
Right.
And what we need to do is empower people out here to do exactly that. So I think that we should have, there's a web page right now, after we left, again, they never saw the value of doing it while I'm there, but now then, there's a web page called UCUT, I think that is. Is that what it is? And so now then I carry around a card, I've got in my folder a little card that they print with the top 10 suggestions of UCUT items where millions of people are voting on. And so we ought to have something here. We ought to have something over here on which jobs would you as Americans start back first. I know which ones I would start back first. Start the timber industry back, start the offshore oil and gas back, we'll start industries back.
Let's drill for oil.
Yes.
Yes, in order to, and we would start the green energies. Keep in mind the stimulus bill funded a lot of green energy stuff, and they were saying it's going to create all these jobs. 80% of the jobs were in China and overseas, by the way. So understand that a lot of times Washington says this and that. So we create green energy, but I think that we should have a website on there. Some people would do this. Some people would concentrate on the small versus large. Some people would concentrate here. Some people would really watch what's happening with our money supply. So I think we should really have a coordinated effort with different opportunities for people to put in. The main thing I would do to empower local people is that I would start the virtual Congress to where we represent from here, not in D.C. Our offices would be here. We'd go to D.C. once in a while and, touch base, do that. We'd take our votes, we would debate, we can, corporations do it all the time. If we're here, then we're available to do these every day instead of work in D.C. every day. Right now, for a constituent to see a representative, you got to fly to Washington, you and your wife go. You can easily spend $1,000 to get up there.